Hi, and welcome to the series Migraine Life Stories. Today, I have Fabiana with me. Fabiana, thank you so much for being here. I'm really, really grateful that you agreed to be interviewed and to share your experience, your story of migraine experience with us. So, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Maria. It's really a pleasure to be here talking to you this afternoon.
Thank you. So, I just want to ask you, like I ask, everybody to share just, briefly a little bit of your background in as far as migraines are concerned, when your migraine started and just how it all shapes up your days.
Yeah, well, but I didn't know that they were migraines, right? Um, and it was only a few years ago that I got a diagnosis
Mm-hmm.
and an explanation from doctors about what was going on. Because for me, it is sometimes pain in my head, in the back part of my head and my neck.
Mm-hmm.
And some other times that overlaps with a certain degree of discomfort that I cannot really explain very well because it implies not seeing very well, being very sensitive to light, to sounds, increased ringing in my ears, and a whole sense, like a whole body sensation of discomfort. Yeah, and sometimes I make a comparison that it's like when your computer shuts down and you don't know why,
Yeah.
but your system just shuts down and there's nothing you can do at that moment with that, uh, but just take it as it is.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
it was,
those moments, like you don't even have pain, right? It's just like a general discomfort that you just can't function properly, correct? Okay.
yes,
Mhm.
yes, exactly. And then I know what a headache is. And headaches are very rare for me.
Mhm.
And I can solve a headache very easily with an aspirin, for example. And it takes maybe 5 to 10 minutes for them to go away. So when the doctor said at first it's a headache, it's a migraine, or they use another word like cefalea in
Mhm.
Spanish,
Yeah.
I said, really? Are you sure?
Yeah, because
That,
you don't really experience pain in the head that often, right? Uh-huh.
right, exactly. So are you kidding me? Just like, well, yeah. So then I had to accept
Mhm.
that that was what was going on with me, and it was good that I could do that.
Of course, that you could get diagnosis finally because
Mm-hmm.
it's really important. And I'm so happy that you are. I mean, I'm definitely not happy that you are having it, obviously, but I am happy that you were talking about it because this is such a common misconception, right? That, well, first of all, people who never experienced migraines, they think that, oh, it's just a bad headache, where obviously it's not just a headache. And sometimes it's not even a headache at all, right?
Exactly.
Very few headaches, and yet you suffer from chronic migraine states, and you feel horrible without any pain in the head. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a really, really important point. So how how, if you want to, talk about it, how does it, because I know we all are in some way or form of, when we suffer from migraines for such a long time, we're shaped, our days are shaped kind of by it, we adjust to it and our life adjusts around it inevitably. So if you don't mind talking about that a little bit, like how is your life affected by this condition, by chronic migraines?
Well, um, a few years ago, I um, I saw a Gestalt therapist,
Mm-hmm.
and she asked me to do something. She gave me pieces of a square wood pieces, like the ones children would play with.
Okay.
And she said, "Can you arrange this on the floor?" And the pain was in the center,
Mm.
and
So it was
everything else
life.
was around it.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I saw that, it was like, oh my God, all my life is conditioned. My job, relationships with friends and family, relationships at home with my son,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and my beliefs also, and experiences with myself, they were all around the pain, you know?
And before you put those pieces of wood, before she asked you to arrange that, you never thought about it in this way.
No,
It was
I
very
couldn't.
obvious.
It's very obvious. It was just right in front of me, but it was so close I couldn't see it.
Yes. Yeah, you kind of, when you live it, you don't really think about it. You just,
No.
do your thing. But then when you step back and see how your life is arranged, wow, what a revelation for you. My God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How did it make you feel?
Um, First of all, I was shocked because I thought that I was a very um, independent person, that I was doing what I wanted,
Mhm.
that I had everything pretty much solved in my life. And then when I saw that, I realized how conditioned I was.
Mhm. I see. Mhm.
And so it was really shocking for me, but it was good
Yeah.
because then you just can't hide it from you can't hide from that anymore.
Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes we tell ourselves, oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's not that bad, right? It's, yeah,
I
some,
can live.
yeah,
I can live with that. And it's mind over body, you know. You have to think positive. You have to be positive. But when you see that your whole life is arranged around something so negative as pain, and I don't mean by negative that pain shouldn't exist.
right, of
I
course.
mean, it's organized like that. Is this the way that I want to live?
Mhm.
This is what the question that came to me. And then the answer was no. But then what do I do?
So what did you do? When was it, first of all? Like, when was it?
Well, this was like in 12 and 2015.
So a few years back. And so,
Mm-hmm.
did this, was it like a, because it sounds like it was a wake up call for you, right? To do something. So I imagine that you started doing something, right?
Yeah, well, yes. Uh, if there is something like a characteristic of my personality, is that I, if I have a situation that requires attention, I dig in until I I don't know. I try and I try and I try.
Mhm.
And I don't know exactly why or where did I get the
Mhm.
necessary strength to do it, but I did it. So what I did was start looking for things and activities that made me feel good
Okay.
or better
Right.
because I was not feeling good.
Mhm.
And
And
for
what,
example,
when you say, sorry to interrupt you, but when you say make you feel good, you mean not necessarily physically, right? But more like emotionally, or both.
in any possible way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it was, um, for example, when it in one of the very bad periods of headaches when it was like a 3-month period of continuous bad headaches every day from waking hour until I went to bed
Yeah.
in at night. And the only thing I could do was uh, listen, and I couldn't read, I couldn't watch TV, I couldn't use my eyes, you know. Of course I could see, but I
Yes. Yeah.
so I found some podcasts
Mm-hmm.
that were really very nurturing for me, and I kept looking for podcasts and to listen. And so this is what I did because it was what I could, and it was good for me because it gave me a reason to be somewhere else within myself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of
Mm-hmm.
all, I discovered, yes, mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into every website where I could just listen about mindfulness and practice mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really great at that time. So I found sites in Spanish because I'm a native Spanish
Right.
speaker. And then I found sites in English, and I was able to profit from the podcasts. And then I followed a person in here in Buenos Aires, who is a therapist and a poet as well, and she has this weekly radio show.
Mm-hmm.
So I would listen to her week after week. So I, I tried to step on a path that would be nurturing for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the headache and the migraine was there. There
Yes.
was nothing I could do. I was in the process of trying different medications. My emotions were very out of balance.
Or
Um, but there was something in me that said, keep on this track because this is something where you can feel good.
Mhm.
Yes?
Mhm. Oh, that's so wonderful. And this is like a testament to the fact that um, even when we are in horrible, excruciating pain,
Mm,
there is still something in us that is bigger than this pain, right? Like we are always bigger than this pain. And if we give some, if we allow ourselves to be expansive, and this is what mindfulness teaches us, right? This like expansion of the spirit, basically, and then pain becomes just one aspect, maybe a pretty an aspect that we focus on just because it's there and it's calling us, but
mm-hmm.
still not all that we are. And that is wonderful that you've discovered it. It's amazing. I'm so happy for you. I
Yeah.
know that you also you were telling me before about something called biodanza, and
Mm-hmm.
really enjoy it. And I know that it's really helpful in your life and in your migraine journey, right? So if you can tell us a little bit about what it is exactly and how it helps you with that, or well, what it is, what you think it is, how you see it. And
Yeah. Uh, you
so
know, I
everybody can
haven't,
look it up.
yes,
Like,
I've been reading a little bit about biodanza, but mostly I've been practicing biodanza without reading about it.
forget about reading. This is even better. Just explain, what you like, what it is for you, what it does for you.
Well, for me, it is uh, a once a week meeting with people I don't know much about,
Mm-hmm.
but I know a lot. We all sit on the floor, or if you can't sit on the floor, we sit on a low or on a chair, in a bench, whatever, and we just talk about what happened to us during the last session.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the only moment in the session where we talk.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason for that. And the reason is very well explained by neuroscience when they say that when you speak, um, the frontal lobe is activated. And when you stop speaking and you start moving um, and expressing yourself with your body, or maybe singing, but not singing actual words, but maybe letting your voice go out, it's a different part of the brain. It's the
Mm-hmm.
other part of the brain, like the right hemisphere,
Mm-hmm.
that is involved. And what we do after we share this um, experience of sharing what happened to each of us or how each of us lived through the previous session is we go into the part where we do not speak anymore for a couple of hours, and we just do what the facilitators or the teachers uh, show us or propose
Mm-hmm.
that we do.
And it's some kind of body movement, right?
And it involves using your body,
Mm-hmm.
yes, um, in whatever way you can at that particular day, following the music
Mm-hmm.
and following um, the proposal of the um, facilitators or the teachers.
Right.
So
So there are some like scenario. Like, can you give an example? Like, what could it be? For example, what could a proposal, a scenario be?
actually, the first thing that we do is we make a circle. We hold our hands and we start moving slowly, following the rhythm of the music that is played at that moment. Yes, in
Mhm.
order to just begin
Yeah.
to move. Yes, and to stretch and to begin to integrate each other. And then,
Mm-hmm.
for example, we start walking. So maybe the teacher says, well, now we're going to walk, and this walk is going to be gentle as if you are, for example, walking over a field of soft grass.
Oh, I see. Uh-huh.
Or you now we're going to walk, we're going to be very energetic or as energetic as you can be.
I see. I see.
Or now we're going to walk and we're going to um, for example, walk as if there is wind in
Mm.
the room, okay? Or now we're going to walk. I mean, th- it's
Yes.
different time,
So
but it's
you just,
just it's
uh-huh.
walking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you kind of imagine yourself in that scenario, and you start expressing it in your body.
Exactly. So you start, or what teachers in biodanza say, you start going into the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you start going into the process, and this is why we stop talking.
Yeah.
because we start living
Yes.
the process,
Yeah.
living through that process. And in order for that to go deep into yourself, and when I mean yourself, I mean all the levels that
Mm-hmm.
a person is, we need to stop, to let the words
Yes.
go and for another time.
Very interesting. And so, how do you feel? Like you go there even when you don't feel well, right? Like even when you have an episode of migraine, you
Actually, yeah, actually, when you don't feel well, is the is the that's the day when you have to go the most.
I see.
That's the day when you have to go, because the change
Mm-hmm.
in that you perceive in yourself, that I perceive in myself when I'm not feeling well, and when I'm tired, or when I have a migraine, or when I have any other kind of pain, or when I have this maybe voices that I say, oh, I don't want to go today. I'd rather stay at home and do something else and watch TV or whatever, right? So that's when I have to like grab myself,
Yes.
right? And take me there.
Uh-huh. Good
Okay.
for you. So you have like good discipline. Uh-huh.
Well, this is what we have learned, that the higher benefits appear when the discomfort is high.
Interesting. That's a very good point. This is a great, very great point. Hmm. I love it.
So when you're, so when, for example, when someone would normally say, oh, why don't you stay at home and go to bed or take a bath or just watch a movie, to no, just go to biodanza, because even though you don't feel good and you can't move very much, or you have a very bad headache, well, or my ears are ringing so loud that the music is very uncomfortable, then I take my earplugs, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I just go there with my ear. I mean, I adapt and
Mm-hmm.
I do what I can, and the benefits are higher for me,
Wow.
because when I come back home, it's like the discomfort is not completely vanished all the time, but I feel better.
That's so wonderful. That's amazing and sounds great. But it feels like I totally see how we all need to do whatever practice. I don't know if you practice yoga or meditation or whatever it is for you, right? But it's always the case when there is a lot of resistance. This is when you have to make yourself and have this discipline of doing it, and then you see the benefits, the huge benefits. But of course there's a fine line between pushing yourself, right, and really being disciplined. So it's also an interesting play. And when you become more aware of your behaviors, right, of your inner workings, then you understand it better.
Uh, Biodanza is a system that has connections with many other um, mind body um,
Yeah,
practices.
practices. Yeah, it sounds
And,
like it.
and there is a connection with yoga. And something that has helped me is to think of when I'm not feeling very well and I know I have to go. Uh, I found it myself. Have you ever seen a mother, a dog, taking the puppy from one place to the other and
Mhm.
grabbing the puppy from here? Okay, so this is what I do with myself.
So you become like you kind of mother yourself.
I mother myself because I know well, I know what's good for me, right?
I love it. This is so beautiful. This is such a good image, because yeah, it's like on one hand, it's a forced action, but it's like a love. that's at force, right?
It's a loving action.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
so, that's the spirit that we all keep in our sessions.
Mm-hmm.
We always do as much as we can. We do not have to follow any choreography. We do not need to know how to dance.
Yeah.
There is no fixed way of moving. You just do what you can. And not only for people with physical um, restraints. For example, we have uh, a new person in our group who suffers from autism,
Mm-hmm.
right? And but he's there and he's able to share and participate. So, and it's also a challenge for us,
Of course. Of course.
accepting, integrating
Yeah.
ourselves and others. And our teachers say biodanza is the session is like a laboratory, yes, where everything is safe and whatever happens is all right as long as there is respect
Yeah.
for the other people
Mm-hmm.
and for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then the idea, but it's not consciously, the thing is that then you start to see changes around yourself during the week.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start realizing, oh, we danced, for example, an integration dance, and then I did this or this happened to me. How come?
Haha. Interesting. Interesting. But yeah, it's like basically you find connections to your to this practice is um like makes you more aware and it's connected to life. I mean, it is life basically.
That's the the principio biocéntrico or the biocentric principle is life.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
the way
uh,
you describe it, this is how I perceive it without having done it ever. But
mhm.
yeah, so you explained it super well. So, so biodanza helps you live with pain, even with pain. Just and this is why I think it is so important to distinguish because a lot of times we talk like about healing and thinking that it's like cure, right?
Yeah,
But you can be completely cured of pain, and that would be wonderful. But you may not be healed at the same at the same moment, right? Or at the
I
same
think I
and
think that would be very unlikely.
yeah.
Personally, I think that's very unlikely. For example, let me tell you one example of how I think I am I healed.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, I used to resist every time I needed an ice pad on my head,
Mm-hmm.
and I would like be resentful
Mm-hmm.
of that, you know,
Like it's again,
and and
again.
say, oh, why do I have to do, and oh, I have to lie down because I have to apply these eyes on my head and I'm wasting my time, blah
Right.
blah 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 blah. Now my attitude is, this is good for me. This is, I need to take care of myself and this is taking care of me, even though I need to do this at least once a day.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, my time has come and now I need to put my eyes back. Oh, fantastic. Yes, let's do it. So that's my attitude today.
Yes,
And
that's
it wasn't like that in the past. I
mm,
would be angry, resentful. I wouldn't smile, blah, 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 you know? So this is how it has helped me. I'm not cured.
yes.
I'm not.
No, no, no. Right, exactly. And that, but that's yeah, it's like two different things, healing and curing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, both are important, but even if you don't have pain, you still need to heal, and you can heal even if you are still in pain.
Exactly.
You can be completely healed and still be in pain, and that's all right, because then you're, like you're saying, your whole attitude is changing, and you become, this is like, I have this image now, like mother dog, like you become like a mother to yourself.
Exactly.
What a beautiful image to be. And this is what we lack a lot, being our own parents. And a lot of us haven't had very happy childhoods, so we all have some kind of trauma associated with it. So learning to become our own parents is so important and so healing.
I learned that the way I express with my body, the way my body expresses, it comes from my psyche,
Mm-hmm.
and my psyche is really um, like shaped by my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing is separated.
Of
My
course.
body is not separated from my psyche and my emotions. Um, I go to the doctors. I listen to them, to the traditional Western medicine doctors, because sometimes I need them.
Of course, yeah.
But I also hear the other doctors, the ones that speak about, well, processes and energy and other things that make sense to me and are true to me
Mm-hmm.
and that work for me.
Right, yeah. And I think this is the important part, is that not that you can, if you take the path of, say, drug-free migraine treatments or alternative medications and everything, it's not like that's it. You cannot take a pill ever in your life, or don't see a Western doctor.
No,
Of course not. No, everything is good in moderation, and it's always good to integrate. And but practices like biodanza, like tai chi, yoga, whatever, all these practices that are somatic, that are uh, that unite
it
the body, mind, and spirit, right? They all
right.
make you more aware, and then you can make better informed decisions. You go to a doctor, and then you say, what he or she said, does it resonate in my body, right? Like, does it, how does it make me feel? How does it make me feel emotionally? And then you can make a better decision, rather than just go and, okay, I'm gonna do this, din, 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 and without even like thinking or feeling anything.
Feeling without paying attention to your gut feeling about what the person is telling you.
Yeah. Or
Exactly.
even like, yeah, exactly. And plus, a lot of time, well, I was there myself at the very beginning with, when I started having horrible migraines. I didn't listen to my body at all. I mean, my body was screaming, obviously, with this horrible pain. And I was just like doing, like taking all those drugs that just make you feel absolutely numb, numb,
Mm-hmm.
like emotionally. And then finally I was like, okay, just chill, let's make peace. And I didn't stop taking drugs, but started being open to other things, and not just waiting to be fixed, but rather participating in my,
Actively. Yeah.
yeah, and just
Yeah.
living this process, like you're saying.
Yeah. It took me a while to go through that process completely. Um, and it took me like 3 years to be able to realize that, to be able to find the doctors that would listen and that would wait for me to answer,
Mm-hmm.
not just impose, you know? So, and I've learned so much about nutrition and exercise and how these toxic thoughts can affect our health,
Right.
that sometimes knowing these things make you realize how many people around us need a little bit or a lot, and they don't have a migraine,
Sure.
but they have other medical conditions which are they um, such as cancer, for example, so
Mhm.
that their life goes there, right?
Yeah.
Or they go into a chronic situation where they're going to have, I don't know, their organs, for example, the liver or their kidneys destroyed by medicines. And so, uh, yeah, it's sometimes it is difficult for me to perceive all this around. Um, so I need to also process these emotions
Mhm.
because it hurts me.
Of
It
course.
it kind of hurts me
Mhm. Yeah. This is, do you mean that it hurts you because
because
of
I
your
see
compassion? Like,
people because I see some people that do not pay attention to what their body is telling them
mhm.
because they
You're
just
hurting.
follow.
Yeah, so you're like hurting on their behalf, kind of. So you're being like kind of compassionate, and it's physical almost.
Yes,
Mhm.
and they're not paying attention to themselves, and they say, "Oh, this doctor said take two of this a day, and I will be fine." And I'm fine, and then you see them the following week, and they're complaining of headaches, and then of course you will have a headache if you take two of these a day.
Yeah,
So, uh, and and doctors do not warn people that this is what could happen, so you don't they don't have all the information. I went through a hepatitis attack because of medicines,
wow.
and I know what happened, and I was lucky enough to find a doctor who was able to help me out, and to help me with nutrition, with the right nutrition.
Yeah,
And it took me a long while. Um, So when I see these things around, I think I am really lucky
yeah.
to have gone through this process. I'm really lucky.
Mhm. Yes, and this is often I feel grateful to migraines for having brought me to where I am now in terms of how much more compassionate I have become to myself and to other people, and how much I've learned about so many things, and how much I've changed in general. And some people, of course, can do it without any pain, but you know, most people with pain, most of us with big pain, we go through this process. Well, it's like kind of a conduit, right, to go to the other side, to a more compassionate and more aware existence.
I think um, there was a doctor who said that people would do anything not to go through the darkness to see the light.
Yeah,
Um, I
but
don't remember exactly the quote.
yeah, but yeah, I understand what you mean, and but you have to, yeah, yeah,
But I mean, the first thing I needed to do was, uh, as you said, to stop. And okay, so I will stop, even though I was in terrible pain. I have pictures of myself being taken at that time, and my face was so full of pain that I can't even recognize myself in those pictures.
yeah,
Uh, and at that time, I didn't even know I was feeling pain because it was so overwhelming that I couldn't recognize what it was until one of my friends told me, "Oh, you look in pain." And I said, really? Is that what's going on with me?
Uh,
Because it was like,
yeah, you were
I
like
was,
so in spinning the
yeah,
wheels that you didn't even
yeah.
notice.
I didn't know what was happening to me. And I was just following this doctor routine, 3 times a week and changing from one medication to the other. And then I had to stop. My liver said, stop.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my
Mhm.
God.
So that was good. That was really good. Now uh, I can speak about this in retrospective.
Yeah,
And of course, I wouldn't recommend, or I wouldn't hope that this would happen to anybody, but we all have our share
yeah,
of darkness, right?
absolutely. Yeah, it's just like a matter of looking into it, like really,
Hmm.
really allowing, not being scared to look inside and to look into the darkness.
And if you are scared, because you are allowed to be
Oh,
scared,
mhm,
um, bring with yourself, or know that you can go into a safe place after that.
mhm,
So find uh, for example, one thing that happened that helped me very much before I started biodanza was the teachings of Rick Hanson
mhm.
in his Well-Being Foundations program. And he teaches where to find refuge, and these things that are very personal, that because being afraid is one of the basic emotions.
Yes,
So, well, I'm going to be afraid when I do this. Yes. So, but then I know I can find refuge here and there and in this way or that other way.
yeah, that's
So it's like layer after layer building processes, um, in order to really go into the deep shit.
yes, yes, yeah, yeah. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but this is, this I just love. Thank you so much for sharing so openly,
Oh, that's fine.
because I really love it. Especially, and I hope that especially people at like early stages of migraine watching this, because
Mm-hmm.
even though you may not relate to that yet, but it seems like we all go through this process, and you need to start the process at some point, to be able to get to the side where there is light. You need to like get into this tunnel and start your healing process when you're looking for your cure. It doesn't mean that you have to like forget about getting out of pain. Of course, getting out of pain is very important, and even like physiologically it's important, but and of course emotionally, and on all levels. But to me, like being healed is even, I mean, it's as, if not more important.
Yeah, the last experience I had of healing happened, a big experience was the death of my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
She died in July,
Mm-hmm.
and for certain reasons, I had to be in charge of. I was very close to her the last month, and she was 98, so we knew that she wouldn't get better. So everything we did was try to make her more comfortable, and live through those days the best way she could. And I found myself, for example, doing things that I don't know where they came from, like playing some music with my phone next to her bed. I would just sit there and play music, or I would take some lavender oil and just use the lavender oil in her face, in her hands. And when she finally died, I just had to say thank you, because she helped me go into places I didn't know about myself.
Wow.
And I don't know how this relates to migraines, but it relates to the process that I've done as a
Yeah.
person. And I was lucky enough to be there with my son when I was telling her, thank you. My son is 20 years old. And when I stopped hugging her and kissing her, and I turned around, he hugged me, you
Oh.
know?
Mhm.
So it was like, oh my God. So this is just going in from one person to the other.
And
And
it's like a generation, right? Like a generational healing. Mhm.
exactly. And
Wow.
we've not been with my son really like affectionate in the body way,
Uh-huh.
like
Yeah.
hugging and kissing in the past, and now we are.
Wow. That is so, so beautiful. So there was a real healing in that moment, and then some,
Exactly.
like some kind of wall dissolved, and now you are able to express.
Exactly. And we are speaking about my grandma's deathbed, right?
Mhm. Yes, yes.
So if anybody had told me you're going to be there and something very important is going to happen to you, I would have said, no, 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 I'm sorry, I'm not going to be there.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
It did.
And but yeah, and you were just saying, like, I don't know how it relates to migraine, but I think that this is the kind of the point as it transpires in our conversation, is that migraine can be our wake up call for
Yeah.
healing, to start healing. And
Yeah.
so this your moment with grandmother maybe would have been completely different if you did not go through all your personal healing because you had migraine. So you've already been able to heal so much that you could heal even this like generational link, which is just wow, absolutely profound.
I'm sure about that. I'm sure my reaction 5 years ago would have been completely different,
Yes, yes.
because I feel a different person. I feel differently. And now it's not that I'm not scared of the disease or an illness or a setback, but I know I have resources. I know I can find them.
Mm-hmm.
I trust myself, where in the past I didn't, because my trust was put on the doctors, it was not on me. So now I trust myself. I feel that I'm standing on my 2 feet, and I'm firmly standing there. And from there I can look around and just be there, and decide, make decisions, and think about things.
Wow. Yeah.
And yeah, it's been all a long process.
But,
And you have been part of it, because I found your videos when I was searching the internet looking for relief. So thank you, Maria.
I'm so honored to be part of this beautiful process, and well, you have been part of of this and of my process as well. So thank you, and thank you so much for sharing it now openly with our community. Yet again, just reminding us that community is so, so important, and that any connection is important. and the more we express ourselves freely into the world, the more we heal, right?
Exactly.
Ah, well, thank you so much for being
Thank you, Maria.